Trump is about to enter talks with Beijing with very little leverage. The original plan was simple. Washington wanted a quick victory over Iran and a clear message to China. The United States still controls the flow of oil through Hormuz. That message was supposed to shape the summit before it even began. Trump had already scored a win in Venezuela by taking over their oil. That gave the White House confidence that pressure, force, and control over energy could still deliver results. Iran became a much harder test. The campaign turned into a strategic disaster, and the whole image of American control started to crack. Project Freedom was supposed to be the centerpiece. The idea was to form a coalition, break through the strait, and restore the flow of oil. That plan has now been halted. After asking China for help, Washington is canceling or pausing the military action. The official excuse is that Pakistan and other countries asked for a pause. Maybe that is true. Maybe it is only a cover story. Either way, the result is clear. The United States wanted to show strength before meeting Xi Jinping. Instead, it showed confusion, hesitation, and limited options. That matters because credibility is part of leverage. If Beijing sees that Washington cannot force the outcome it wanted in Iran, then China has less reason to accept American demands at the summit. So this is now bigger than Iran. The United States has lost leverage over Tehran, and it has also damaged its position before the most important meeting with China. Trump may still want big headlines, big pledges, and big numbers. But after the failure around Hormuz, Washington is entering the summit with fewer options than it expected. That gives Beijing more room to push back. China's defiance of U.S. sanctions has already gone global, and Trump cannot realistically walk into the summit and demand that Beijing surrender its economy to American pressure. That kind of demand would require stronger leverage. Right now, Washington does not have it. One can also assume Scott Bessent is unlikely to sanction Chinese refineries or Chinese banks. The consequences would be too big. China knows this. That gives Beijing more confidence before the meeting even starts. Trump's goal is likely to be about headlines. He will want trillion-dollar figures, huge promises, and major Chinese pledges that can be sold as a victory. He is also unlikely to play the Taiwan card seriously because he needs China more than ever. The pressure will likely be focused on trade. Trump will want China to extend its pledge to buy 25 million tons of U.S. soybeans annually until 2028. He wants that extended beyond the next 3 years. He may also demand more Chinese purchases of U.S. oil and gas, plus more Boeing airplanes to support American manufacturing. These are tough sales because Beijing knows Washington is negotiating from a weaker position. The proposed Board of Trade or trade framework also fits this pattern. It is mainly about removing roadblocks for the U.S. and buying Washington more time to reduce dependence on Chinese supply chains. It does not solve the most sensitive issues, especially AI and advanced chips. China can cut through these demands easily, and this is where the problem becomes wider. Other countries are now watching the same weakness and moving closer to China's financial system. Mozambique is one of the clearest examples. The country is now looking to swap part of its dollar debt into RMB debt. The amount could reach $1.4 billion. For a developing country, that is a major decision because debt is not just about accounting. It shapes trade, investment, and long-term political alignment. The logic is simple. Many countries are facing chronic dollar shortages. Dollar loans become harder to service when global trade slows and dollar liquidity gets tighter. U.S. tariffs have made this problem worse, especially for countries that need access to U.S. markets to earn dollars. If a country owes dollars, it needs to export more to earn those dollars, or it needs to borrow new dollars to repay old loans. That creates pressure year after year. Switching to RMB debt changes the entire trade dynamic. If Mozambique owes money in Chinese currency, then it needs deeper trade with China to earn that currency. That helps Beijing secure supply chains during the trade and economic war. It also makes China more important to Mozambique's long-term development model. Mozambique is also discussing a debt for development swap. That means part of the debt could be converted into investments where China gets direct ownership. Beijing likes this structure because project spending can be controlled more closely. Chinese labor, Chinese technology, and Chinese equipment can be used. The money does not simply leave the system. It gets recycled inside the Chinese economic ecosystem. For Mozambique, the benefit is direct. The country gets debt relief, infrastructure development, and a way to fund projects without depending on dollars. It also gets a deeper partnership with China at a time when dollar funding is becoming more expensive and harder to manage. This is why the story matters beyond Mozambique. It shows how RMB financing can turn debt pressure into trade integration. And once debt, investment, and supply chains begin moving in the same direction, the relationship becomes harder to reverse. Mozambique also has another asset that makes this shift even more important: energy. The crisis in the Middle East has taught China a clear lesson. Supply chains must be spread across more regions. Russian and Asian gas supplies are still reliable for now, but Beijing understands that anything can happen when wars, sanctions, and blockades start shaping global trade. That is why Mozambique becomes important. The country sits on 180 trillion cubic feet of gas reserves in the Rovuma Basin. This makes it one of the top 25 gas reserves in the world. For Mozambique, these reserves are a path to more tax revenue, more investment, and more national development. For China, they offer a new source of gas supply that can reduce future exposure to U.S. pressure. Energy from the Middle East is no longer as reliable as before. A conflict around Hormuz can disrupt shipping, raise prices, and force countries to rethink where their fuel comes from. China is already doing that. Deeper RMB financing can connect several things at once: debt, trade, infrastructure, and future energy supply. Mozambique gets funding and development. China gets stronger access to resources and a wider supply network. And this is where the cost of money becomes critical. When US rates stay high and Chinese yields stay lower, the choice of currency becomes a direct economic decision. The longer the Iran war drags on, the more inflation pressure builds inside the United States. Inflation expectations are already moving higher. The one-year inflation expectation has risen to 3.26%. The 10-year inflation expectation is up to 2.47%. U.S. consumers are expecting 6% inflation down the line. That points to higher rates for months or even years. This is why RMB financing becomes more attractive for countries looking at their debt costs. China's inflation is still kept under control, so Chinese bond yields remain much lower. The U.S. 10-year yield is around 4.4%, while China's 10-year yield is below 1.8%. That is roughly a 250 basis point difference. For countries that can move debt from dollars into RMB, the savings can reach hundreds of millions or even billions over time. And while this pressure is building, Bessent is promising even more cash injections into the American economy.
The president's talking about a $2,000 rebate, and that would be for families making less than, say, $100,000. Trump accounts every child born retroactively to January 1, but for the next 3 years, is going to get a $1,000 account that's going to be invested in the U.S. stock market. So,
for American families, this sounds positive. For foreign investors, it raises another concern. More rebates, more accounts, and more fiscal promises mean more pressure on deficits and more concern about dollar devaluation. The U.S. is taxing the world through tariffs while injecting money into its own economy before the midterms. That gives foreign investors less incentive to hold dollar assets, especially treasury bonds. The underlying asset behind treasuries is the dollar itself, and the dollar is getting hammered. Experts are still warning about a dollar collapse and the end of safe haven status. The dollar fell by almost 10% last year. Even during the Iran war, safe haven buying started to reverse. The dollar rallied briefly, then gave up those gains, and it is now weaker than at the start of the year. Central bank demand for dollars is starting to fall. China holds RMB and gold assets that can appreciate as the dollar falls, and the damage is no longer limited to Washington's rivalry with Beijing. America's closest allies are now feeling the cost of the Iran war. The rift between Scott Bessent and Rachel Reeves, Britain's finance minister, shows how much tension is building inside the Western Bloc. The Iran war is hammering allied economies, and governments that usually stand close to Washington are now dealing with the financial damage. Japan has already seen its currency collapse. The situation became so serious that Japan had to sell dollars in the market and buy back yen to rescue the currency. That is a major signal. When an ally has to defend its currency because energy pressure is spreading through global markets, the war is no longer a distant conflict. The UK is facing its own bond crisis. The pressure connects back to the oil shortage caused by the dual blockade from the United States and Iran. The UK 30-year yield has surged to almost 5.8%, the highest level since 1998. The 10-year yield rose above 5.1%. Rates in Britain are now far higher than in the United States. Local election uncertainty is part of this pressure, but soaring energy prices are a major driver. The British economy never fully recovered from the gilt crisis under Liz Truss, and a prolonged Hormuz shutdown could damage an already fragile economy even more. That explains why Rachel Reeves reportedly scolded Bessent over the Iran war. She also reminded him that she did not work for him. That was a sharp signal from one of America's closest allies. She said Trump's war on Iran was a mistake without clear objectives or an endgame, and she rejected the claim that the world is safer now than it was a few weeks ago. Bessent allegedly responded by warning about what would happen if Tehran carried out a nuclear attack on London. That sounds like fear-mongering, and it shows how deep the disagreement has become. Global oil prices are rising. Pump prices around the world are 20% to 50% higher. Bond markets are being hit as values crash. U.S. allies are becoming nervous and angry because they are paying the price for Washington's war. And the strain is no longer only financial. It is now reaching weapons deliveries. The United States is a major weapons supplier for the G7 and NATO. European countries, including Britain, are major customers of the American military-industrial complex. They depend on U.S. weapons for their own defense planning, their stockpiles, and their long-term security strategy. Now the Iran war is taking priority. Washington is warning allies, especially in Europe, that arms shipments will be delayed. U.S. stockpiles are being drained, and the shortages affect everything from HIMARS to missile systems. These are not symbolic weapons. These are systems countries need for real defense. That creates a serious trust problem. If allies cannot count on deliveries during a crisis, they will start looking for more control over their own defense supply chains. Europe already has reasons to reduce dependence on Washington. Delayed weapons give it another one. And this is where the China summit becomes more difficult for Trump. So when Trump sits down with Xi Jinping, the real question is not whether China will obey U.S. demands. The real question is whether Washington still has enough leverage to make those demands matter. If more countries start choosing RMB loans, Chinese trade, and Chinese infrastructure over dollar pressure, this summit could become much bigger than one meeting between Trump and Xi. Will more countries shun the dollar for China's currency? And how much more pressure can U.S. allies take from the Iran war? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button and share the video.